The new political dispensation of Cameroon gets the heads of traditional rulers out of the political troubled waters, as they are now expected to play a vanguard role in the coming of regional councils in the country. As examination malpractices take central stage in Cameroon, the news digs into the why and how of the ugly practice that only recently caused the rewrite of the baccalaureate examination. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to stretch the economies of the sub-region to the threshold of ruin, the sub-regional body is working on how to turn the COVID-19 challenges into opportunities. Those are our lead stories. Hello, I am Ben Menopufong. Welcome to the 7:30 News.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
You're welcome once again. We open with this press release from the Presidency of the Republic, and it reads, "The Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic hereby informs the national community that the President of the Republic, Chairperson of the Higher Judicial Council, has postponed the meeting of the Higher Judicial Council initially scheduled for Thursday, the 6th of August 2020 to Monday, the 10th of August 2020 at noon at the conference room of the Presidency of the Republic. And it has been signed Ferdinand Ganga, Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic. The time of great maneuvers and negotiations is dawning within the ranks of the traditional institutions and chieftaincies in Cameroon as the country looks up to the holding of regional council elections in which the voices of traditional rulers will be preponderant. Besides their role as custodians of the traditional values and auxiliaries of the administration, the traditional rulers will henceforth play a key role in the political life of the nation. Be they first, second, or third-class chiefs, the mission and role of the traditional rulers in Cameroon will never be the same again. Kilian Datndifon.
In the yesteryears, traditional rulers were as discreet and sacred as shrine grandmasters, dreaded on sight even with their official recognition since independence and categorization by public authorities. Presidential Decree of July 15, 1977 categorizes traditional rulers into the first, second, and third-class chiefs. The law gives the territorial competence of the first-class chief to a division, second-class chief to a subdivision, and third-class chief to a village. This notwithstanding, Section 4 of the decree states that the demographic and or economic importance of the sphere of influence could be the determining factor of classification, with the principal nations as custodians of tradition, auxiliaries of the administration, and facilitators of the decentralized territorial entities. The Presidential Decree of September 13, 2013 placed them on a monthly wage of 200,000 francs CFA for first-class chiefs, 100,000 CFA francs for second class, and 50,000 francs for third-class chiefs. In the current context, where they go beyond the mandatory custody of the tradition to become political actors, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Territorial Administration, and the divisional officer, supervisory authorities at different levels of competence are not having it easy with increasing chieftaincy struggles in the country.
More and more, and slowly but surely, traditional rulers are integrating the political circle of the country inch after inch. The new political dispensation of the country, coupled with the forthcoming regional council elections, now seems to consolidate the participation of traditional rulers in politics. Ebenezer Akanga reports on the place of the traditional ruler in the regional councils and why they are now being lured by political actors.
Since the reintroduction of multi-party politics in Cameroon, traditional rulers have more and more been making known their political ambitions. The custodians of traditions militate in political parties and occupy political positions. The traditional rulers are highly quoted by politicians.
Traditional chiefs are very important for the administrative apparatus of the state. And they are also important for political entrepreneurs because they want to compete to get several positions within the democratic process, and they have to build a political basis at the grassroots level. That's why they are soliciting traditional chiefs.
The new political dispensation consolidates the participation of traditional rulers in politics. In each regional council of 90 members, for example, 20 will be representatives of traditional chiefs.
With the decentralization process, it is very important to involve traditional rulers in the process of local development.
So traditional rulers are not only confined to performing the duties of auxiliaries of the administration, they are also fully into politics now, and they wield a lot of influence.
Let's now meet one of these traditional rulers deep inside his palace in Meskin, a locality in the Diamari division of the Far North region. He is His Royal Highness Amadou Dairou Lamido of Meskin, the one-time mayor of Marwa 1 Council and father of 21 children, is looking forward to using his world of experience in enhancing not only the socio-economic development of Meskin, but that of the Far North region in particular. Sylvester Temkeng is our guide in this encounter.
Made up of 53 third-class chiefdoms, the second-class chiefdom of Meskin was created in 1975 and has at his helm His Royal Highness Amadou Dairou, who ascended the throne in 1990. Father of 21 children, the Lamido of Meskin conveniently handled his multiple responsibilities as a traditional authority, spiritual guide, head of the customary court, auxiliary to the administration, and family head.
I go for prayers at 5 a.m. and after prayers I come back home and spend time with my family. If there is any customary court case, I summon my notables and we see how to handle the case.
Fervent militant of the CPDM, the one-time mayor of Marwa Council is now alternate member of the Senate and continue to pilot his population, estimated at 22,000, on the race of socio-economic development, with emphasis on the respect of state institutions and those who incarnate them, especially at a time when the entire globe is challenged by the coronavirus.
2 seconds devant I am calling on my community to continue respecting the authorities and each other, and also to continue respecting government's anti-COVID measures.
He has also been spearheading eligible voters to massive registered in the electoral list before the August 31st deadline.
The Sawa people of the littoral and those of Douala extraction in particular have been paying tribute to one of their venerated historical figures, King Rudolph Douala Mangabel and his secretary Ngosodin, both of whom were killed through hanging by German colonial government. At the start of a week-long activities to celebrate the lives of the two heroes who staged a spirited resistance to the German occupation, the governor of the littoral region and the city mayor of Douala described the two figures as true symbols of patriotism and selflessness. Details with Mercy Ashunyabeyu from Douala.
The rendezvous was again respected on day 2 of commemorative activities to pay homage to King Rudolph Douala Mangabel in Bonanjo. This time it was a turn of Jean-Yves Ebumbu Douala Mangabel, the traditional ruler of the Bel clan, who laid a wreath at the Bonanjo site where Rudolph Douala Mangabel was hanged, an exercise that equally took him to the hero's family residence. Then came the other traditional rulers of the Bele Bele clan, Bakoko clan, Daido clan and Akwa clan, who each honored the sacrifices of a man whose footprints are still very vivid a decade or more after his passing. What is sure, the commemorations, which have become an annual event, is an opportunity for today's youth to acquaint themselves with Cameroon's history.
A traditional rulers consultative committee has been set up in the West region by the traditional rulers of that part of the country to look deeper into their affairs. The new organ is one of the major outcomes of a meeting of traditional rulers that held in Baham in the Upper Plateau Division, during which the missions and activities of traditional rulers in community development and peace maintenance were reviewed. Kevin Nembo reports from CRTV West.
Accelerated development under a peaceful atmosphere for the welfare of all Cameroonians is achievable if traditional rulers work in unison with administrative and municipal officials. The raison-d'etre of the consultative meeting that held behind closed doors. In attendance, the Vice Prime Minister, Secretary General of the CBDM Central Committee, Jean Kwete, a cross-section of members of government, mayors and MPs to review the mission and activities of traditional rulers in partnership with administrative officials present.
Traditional chieftaincies play a very important role in terms of mediation between the state and the population. Traditional chiefs should be hand in hand with administrative authorities to help the head of state to maintain our country in peace, in order.
The initiator of this come together, the SDO for the Upper Plateau, Yampen Usmanu, speaking on the occasion, said meetings like this will become regular so that they can consult and exchange ideas on issues affecting their various communities.
We stay in the West region, where 44-year-old Nikki Love Maptue Futso and her 4 deputies have been installed at the helm of the Pete Banjun Council in the Kunki Division. The senior divisional officer for Kunki, Donatien has called on the council officials to close up ranks and continue development projects initiated by the late Mayor Futso Victor. Ngo Henry reports from CRTV West.
A cross-section of the population of the Pete Banjun Council in the Kunki witnessed the installation of the new mayor, Nikki Love Futso Maptue, and her 4 deputies. It all began at the Banjun Court of First Instance, where the new council officials were sworn in with a call on them to be transparent in the management of resources. The senior divisional officer for the Kunki called on Mayor Nikki Love Futso Maptue and her first deputy, David Kenya, and the councillors to put hands on deck and continue the development projects initiated by the late Mayor Futso Victor. The new Mayor Nikki Love Futso Maptue, who doubles as the president of the youth wing of the CPDM in the Kunki North, is the first woman to head the Pete Banjun Council. The event was attended, among others, by the West Chief Scribe, Gilles Sadi, and the former Minister Edouard Akamen Fumu.
The government of Cameroon has begun organizing a number of activities geared towards projecting and promoting the rights of indigenous people. Emphasis is being laid on the consolidation of the National Indigenous Peoples Development Plan that was being popularized at the workshop that opened in Yaoundé today under the auspices of the Ministry of Social Affairs. As Victor Siga reports, the event is coming ahead of the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples that comes up on August 9.
The focus of the workshop was to carry out prospective evaluation of actions implemented by this actor in favor of indigenous people, while taking into account the social dimension and the socio-economic inclusion of the indigenous people. These financial and technical partners discussed on a large-scale measures to ensure the socio-economic and cultural integration of this group of people.
There is no development if we don't have inclusion. So we're trying to make this society to have the same chance as the rest of the community. So we'll have to examine this plan to reach that objective.
The 26th edition of World Indigenous Day will be in its 12th celebration in Cameroon.
Final year students of the French subsystem of education in Cameroon are currently retaking the baccalaureate examination. The reason being simple. The initial examination was annulled because the questions leaked. And examination question leakages are not new in Cameroon. The question then arises, who are the brains behind such malpractices, especially from the time the questions are set up to when they get into the examination rooms. Constantine Baum went investigating and came away with the observation that the circuit is not only complicated, but one laden with mafia.
Before candidates sitting public exams test their knowledge and question papers, the questions must have gone through a series of rigorous processes with the objective to make the examination credible.
Chief examiners, they send in questions, and then pedagogic advisors, they send in questions which they may have collected from all experienced teachers. The questions are now channeled to the GCE board, and there is a commission that sits in to do the selection, because when you hand in your questions, you don't know which questions, whether your questions shall be selected for the final exams.
These measures are taken to prevent leakages, which of recent has become a challenge as some of those involved in the process have lost their integrity.
It's really unfortunate because some chief of centers or examiners may want to arrogate themselves and want to manage the question papers themselves.
From the drafting and composition phase to printing and distribution of questions, a leakage might occur since the same teachers are appointed over the years to draft and compose questions. With their experience, they can provide possible questions as suggestions to some schools.
It can happen that in some schools that same questions which came up in normal class examinations appears again in public exam. It is difficult to explain the coincidence, but these are leakages. But what happened with the back exams this year? I find faults in some schools and chief of centers.
Offenders must be sanctioned. As part of the remedial measure, the whole transmission system of question paper from the setting of question paper to the hand of examinee should be kept under strict monitoring.
We should bear in mind that negligence by a single individual can seriously harm the entire community.
Thanks for watching the 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV. We are broadcasting live from Yaoundé. The Cameroon Women's Association, JFAC, has launched a 6-week program to train young girls and women on the conception, designing and execution of a successful business plan. The training that covers domains like agriculture, food processing, textile, tourism, catering services, amongst several others, opened yesterday at the JFAC head office here in Yaoundé. Gerald Nanjie Yambe reports.
This move by the Cameroon Business Women Association is intended to contribute to the creation of employment through the development of female enterprises with a view of empowering Cameroonian women.
Some women are in the market having small boutiques. They have been there for so long, they don't know where to go. So we are also going to train women to remove them from the informal sector to the formal sector.
The business incubator set up by this association is receiving proposals and ideas in different domains, such as agriculture and food processing, textile, tourism and catering services, hotel management, information and communication technologies, to name just these.
We are really honored to be here to benefit from this great training, and we hope that it will help us to move forward. To have the different tools, knowledge on how we can move forward in our different initiatives, and to see how we can create as much as possible in order to be a support for our country.
Beneficiaries will therefore be selected on a basis of a protocol developed and validated by the project steering committee.
As the figures of the COVID-19 pandemic keep aggravating in Cameroon, less and less Cameroonians are now showing up in hospitals even for routine consultations for other non-coronavirus-related pathologies. Reason why medics are advising Cameroonians to kill the hospital phobia that has been engendered by the COVID-19 pandemic and continue to respect the preventive measures while they go to hospitals. Baldwin Sama is with Dr. Frank Chi Amabo at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center here in Yaoundé, with whom he now explains why it is crucial for people to continue going to hospital for routine checkups. Hello, Baldwin. Welcome on board.
Good evening, Ben Menopufong, and welcome. The fear of the unknown is what has been disturbing many patients in the country who are very reluctant to visit the different health facilities to have themselves treated. This is simply because most of these patients are scared of being infected with COVID-19 if they have to visit these health facilities. What exactly do they need to know, and how should they get themselves protected when they find themselves in all these health facilities? That is what we shall be discussing with Dr. Frank Chi Amabo. He is an epidemiologist. Good evening, doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
With this considerable drop in the number of patients who visit health facilities nowadays, what's your reading as a medical person?
Thanks for this very pertinent issue. I must admit there is some truth to what you're saying, and this is essentially due to the stigmatization of COVID-19 patients, but also the irrational fear of contracting COVID-19 systematically when people get to a health facility. I am glad we can use avenues such as this to reassure the population that within our COVID treatment centers, we use infection and prevention control measures such as the use of face masks, triaging, and other mechanisms to avoid contamination.
And since you're talking about measures to avoid contamination, how recommended is it for these health practitioners in these different health facilities, and equally the patients, to make use of their protective face mask in order for them to avoid being infected?
I must say it is very important to keep using those measures, especially in public places such as health facilities. So the community should keep on wearing their face masks, have the physical distancing when they visit those facilities so that they can reduce the risk of contamination. So dear community, keep on using your face mask, social distance, your health facilities are safe.
These are recommendations from the Public Health Emergency Operations Center out there for Cameroonians, especially patients who are watching us this evening. You must respect all these guidelines, visit the different health facilities, have yourselves treated, and you will be safe. Back to you, Ben Menopufong.
Thank you, Baldwin, and your guest for coming on board the 7:30 News. On to other developments now. The Interstate Committee of the Central African Economic Union has been holding proceedings via a video conference to lay the groundworks of the 35th Ordinary Session of the Council of Ministers of Finance, Economy and Integration that comes up on August 10, 2020. The regional economic experts are not only expected to launch an aggressive fight against the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, but will also be seeking ways of turning the challenges into opportunities for the sub-regional economy to pick up again. Caroline Oke-Anoma reports.
Akin to all the other regions of the world, the negative impact of COVID-19 has not spared the Central African sub-region. In a video conference bringing together experts of the Interstate Committee of UAC in the presence of the chairperson of the CEMAC Commission, Professor Daniel Ona-Ondo, it was debated and agreed that rather than relying exclusively on foreign donors, at this time the CEMAC sub-region turned the lemons into lemonade.
First of all, you have to see how we can be more integrated within the Central Africa, and we have to look how we can go forward the process of integration.
So what other options are in view?
We have to industrialize ourselves. You have to think about our internal solutions. We have to strategize more in order to bring more revenue, more income to develop our countries and develop our sub-region.
Other key issues expected for discussion are the integrated community tax, a combined mixed brigade, a mixed custom, the suppression of the telephone roaming fees, the effective implementation of the free movement of persons and goods within the CEMAC sub-region, and counting.
Students of the Price, Weight and Measure section of the National School of Administration and Magistracy (NAM) were being lectured today on the importance of having a credible measuring system that can guarantee competitiveness and fairness in trade. This was during a debate organized by the Ministry of Trade as part of activities to mark the 2020 edition of the World Meteorology Day to be observed on Friday, August 7, 2020. Clarissa Ray Takang took down notes for the 7:30 news.
The value of products can be determined only if there is a credible and appropriate measuring system recognized and approved by trade partners. This is the basis upon which international trade is built, with metrology playing a great role. The discourse between students of the National School of Administration and Magistracy and officials of the Ministry of Trade was the occasion to highlight the importance of weights and measures in buying and selling. This becomes even more vital when trading on the continental and global scenes, as deals are either made or broken based on quantity and quality. Observing the World Meteorology Day, therefore, brings to mind the impact of measures on daily life and the national economy, as the influence on prices is inevitable. The idea is to ensure that equity, trust, consumer and producer protection are guaranteed, a goal to uphold without fail, as African states have partnered to create the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Members of the theatre art poles of the Ministry of Arts and Culture have joined their voices to those of their other peers in saluting the June 2020 law on artistic and cultural associations in Cameroon. They tendered a motion to Cameroon's Minister of Arts and Culture, Bidungpat, in which they are renewing their support to the President of the Republic for giving the law power. Minister Bidungpat received the message, invited the men of theatre to use the new law in becoming more professional and taking the Cameroonian culture to the next level. And that's where we'll leave it on this edition of the 7:30 News. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:30. Bye-bye.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.